Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm back to check out some more scary stuff. This is Mr. Nightmare. It's the name of this channel. So yeah, I'm gonna check out one of his videos. I heard about this channel. I have no idea what it's like. I suppose because it's stories, scary stories. I don't know. But before I get into it, if you're new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe if you want. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe if you want. So yeah, we're just gonna jump in and check out this video and see what it's all about. Like I said, I have no idea. Never watched any of these videos from this guy's channel, so I don't know if it's gonna be like a scary video or just him telling a story. I don't know. I'm gonna tell this one's just over 14 minutes long. 3 Scary True Pizza Delivery Horror Stories, Volume 9. Now let's check it out.
I'm saving with Liberty Mutual Loan. They customize your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need. You can save $700 just by switching. Oh, let me put a reminder on your phone. On the top of the pile. Only pay for what you need. Liberty, 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 liberty.
Okay. I put my glass on so I can actually see what's going on here.
At the age of 17, I was working as a pizza delivery boy for a local pizza place. I was doing it for months by this point.
Oh, really?
I'd done countless deliveries already. My first car was an old, cheap Toyota, so it was perfect for bopping around town with. It was a Friday or Saturday night. I was working the closing shift, which was 12 a.m. It was open later on weekends.
So was this guy
This was towards the end of the night.
reading
past
somebody
11
else's
for
story,
sure.
I guess?
My boss, who I'll just call Mario, would always give me the details for the houses I'd be delivering to and their orders. We had an order for 1 pie to a woman named Karen, ironically. It was an unusually long drive away, about 15 minutes. Most orders come locally around the area, like 5 minutes away on average. I expected a better tip for this reason. I brought the pizza to my car and off I went, listening to my usual playlist on the way. I pulled down the block of the address and pulled up in front of the house.
So is this the actual
It
thing?
was a
This is
small-sized house,
No, probably
as were
not.
most of the houses in the area. It seemed to be a lower-income area. The lights were on in one of the rooms on the first floor. I was approaching the door when suddenly a woman called out from a window from the house next door, saying, "Excuse me, that pizza's for us. We gave the wrong address." So I walked next door to the front door and saw that the doorbell was broken. So I opened the storm door and then knocked really loud on the main door. There wasn't an answer for a good 30 seconds, so I knocked again.
So they
I
were
heard a
waiting for the
woman's
pizza
voice
while
on
we
the
should
other
just be at the
side
door.
yell, "1 second," but they still took forever to open the door. Another minute passed before the door finally opened, and a woman in probably her mid-40s answered the door. She right away smiled at me and gave this flirtatious head-to-toe stare at me as if she were checking me out. She said in a very loud voice, "Chels, come look how handsome the delivery boy is."
That's bizarre.
Another woman about the same age came over to the door, and she did the same thing. Right away I felt my cheeks getting red, as I was a bit shy around older women like that. The woman who opened the door, who I'm assuming was Karen, asked me what time I get off work. That was when I started getting really nervous, because I wasn't good at flirting with women at that
Take
age.
roll, just hit
I
deliver
said,
the
"This is
pizza.
probably my last delivery," and then one of the women asked me if I wanted to come in and have some wine with them. I knew my friends would all rip on me forever if I blew this opportunity,
Yeah.
so I said, "Yeah, sure."
It's a
They asked how old I was, and I said
woman's
21.
house to drink some
And they
wine.
both laughed, and one of them said they don't care if I'm under 21. They told me to sit on the couch, so I did. They both sat on either side of me. This whole encounter felt too good to be
That's
true to me.
bizarre. So
Nothing
one
like this had
woman's on
ever
either
happened
side
to
of
me
them?
before. I had a feeling these two women were already very drunk. From here, the women are both being very flirty with me, commenting on my dimples, saying how cute my shyness was.
So
and all
far,
this
it's just
stuff.
really bizarre. and
I was
creepy.
drinking some wine, pretending like it didn't taste disgusting to me, because I didn't drink wine at that age at all. The woman Chelsea started saying that they want to show me something in the basement. I laughed and said, "What is it?" They both laughed and said it's a secret, but that I'll like what it is. They
Alright.
wanted me to go down first. Honestly, I had my own fantasy about what was going to happen in the basement.
In the basement.
Fortunately, it was nowhere near that.
I was gonna say,
I
yeah.
walked over to the doorway of the
Probably a
basement
bad
and
idea.
looked down into the darkness below. I looked back at them and noticed they weren't laughing anymore. They had these blank faces. Only until they noticed me look back at them and they started to laugh and smile again. I said in a firm voice, "What's down there?" They said almost in unison, "It's a surprise." I started to walk slowly
I have
down
a
into
really
the
bad
basement,
feeling about going
asking
down
where
there.
the light switch is. One of them said, "Leave the lights off."
Yeah,
Now
no.
this part I'm not 100% certain of, but I was looking down into the basement, and I thought I saw something move. Something as in a person's arm or hand. I turned around and saw the two women weirdly creeping towards the door, sneakily. I stepped out of the basement and shut the door. I told them I need the money for the pizza as I nervously walked around them closer to the front door. This was when I spotted the towering, huge man standing in the doorway of an adjacent room, probably the kitchen. His 5 words have stayed with me all these years later. He said, "Let's just make this easy." I turned for the door and said the pizza's free. I ran to open it and slammed it behind me, only to hear it open seconds later. I got in my car, locking the door first thing, and that man was already outside my passenger side window looking in.
Wow.
He tried opening the door and then knocked on the glass. I put it in drive and got out of there not looking back. I got back to work and told my boss what happened and why I came back empty-handed. He and the rest were in shock. I called the non-emergency number to
That's
report
bizarre.
what happened, just in case if anything
Yeah,
else should
you
be
don't go in a
reported at
basement
that
with
address again.
no lights
Police
on.
would know something awful's going on in that house. Whatever trap I was about to walk into, thank God I didn't find out what it was.
Wow. That would have been bizarre. Yeah, going down this basement where the lights off, something creepy is down there moving
I was
around.
19 years old.
And there's some huge
I was
guy
still
standing at the door
working at a
waiting for
nearby
you
pizza
when you
place,
decide.
moving into the given address. I'd done it a million times before, and nothing weird ever happened.
Like to purposely order
It was
pizza
very
just to get the guy to
repetitive.
go there.
Tips would usually be around $3 to $5, depending on the distance. Sometimes more generous people would give 10 or more, though. I remember this order was just a chicken parm hero and a regular slice. Smaller orders like this usually yielded lesser tips, but I didn't have a choice in which deliveries I did. I was on my way to the address, and of course, the house was apparently on a dead-end block. This block had a more rural feel to it than the rest of the neighborhood. One of the houses had an RV sitting on the grass with a small patch of woods next to it. The other houses looked like little farmhouses. There was a lot more space on this particular street. And then I pulled up to the address. It was this small, weird-looking house with a huge property, though. It sat next to what appeared to be an abandoned house with overgrown grass and shrubs. It was probably
Sure,
around
it's-
6 p.m. and it was getting pretty dark
Sure,
out.
it's like a
So it was
creepy
around the
looking
time
house to
people
begin
would start
with.
putting on their lights inside their houses. But all the lights in the house were off, and I noticed the front door seemed cracked open. I began to walk over to the front door.
This makes
I
you
heard a
really
piano
want
being
to
played.
not be a pizza
It
delivery
sounded like
person.
it was a couple rooms away at least, muffled by some walls or a door or something. I knocked on the door and then rang the bell after a few minutes, only the doorbell didn't work. The piano was still playing. I felt weird just walking in, so I walked around the property towards the back. The backyard was a literal mess. Things scattered all over the grass.
Of course.
I even saw a broken, rusty chain link fence just sitting in the middle of the yard. I went to the back door and knocked really loud. I looked through the glass of the door and saw
This is
nothing
really
except for
strange.
what looked like a really messy storm room. Clearly, these people were not neat freaks, to say the least. When nobody answered the back door either, I went back around front and called one of the guys at the pizzeria to confirm the address with him. He took a second to check what he wrote down, and he confirmed that I was at the correct address.
Wow.
So I went back to the front door, pushed it open, and heard the creepy sounding piano music still playing. I yelled, "Pizza's here." The piano stopped. Someone yelled, "Over here." Then the piano resumed. They were playing this simple yet creepy
Why couldn't they just get up and
song
go to
as
the
if
door?
on loop. There were also no lights on in this house, so it was almost hard to see in there. I walked straight, getting closer to the sound of the music. The smell inside the house was very musty and off-putting. When I got halfway into, I guess what you'd call the foyer, I felt very uncomfortable. I wasn't going to go any further. I yelled, "I'm by the front door, sir." The music stopped, this time for good, and now there was just silence.
Oh my god.
I backed towards the door again so that I would be closer to the outside. I was expecting to hear footsteps coming towards me, but no, it was just dead silent. I said, "Sir?" And a voice from another room said, "Yes, sorry, I have trouble walking. Could you just bring it in here, please?" I asked, "What room are you in, sir?" And he took a moment to answer back, "If you just walk through the living room, I'm in the dining room." There were no directions on the phone to do any
This
of
is
this.
really strange.
So this was very strange.
Feel bad for this guy having to
I
do
thought for a
this.
second about my next course of action. I felt bad leaving in the case that this was some old, feeble man just living in a messy house. I started
Could
walking
be.
through the living room, and there was an opening that led to what I presumed to be the dining room. Me being my overly cautious and paranoid self was still suspicious. Instead of walking straight into the dining room, I peeked around the wall just enough for one eye to see into the room. I saw the piano, but there was no one sitting at it. I also didn't see anyone in the entire room. With that, I quietly but quickly walked back towards the front door, shut the door behind me, and drove back to the pizzeria. I explained that I got a sketchy vibe inside the house. My boss was completely understanding, especially when the alleged customer didn't call back asking why I left. That said everything. I didn't really understand the logic in trying to commit a robbery in
So
your
we
own
never
house.
saw any person.
Nor
No,
did
that's
my
really
boss or
strange.
coworkers. So later that night after work, I looked up that address, and that house was foreclosed on months ago, and it had been vacant. When I told this to everyone, they had the same mouth-dropping reaction I did. I was truly mere steps away from probably getting robbed. That, or someone was trying to play a
I wonder if any
horrible prank
pizza people
on
go
an
to this on a
unsuspecting
daily
pizza
basis.
delivery guy.
I suppose if they did, to be on the news more often. But still, that's creepy. Like going to a creepy looking house and you hear creepy music playing and you can't find anybody to
It
just
was
hear
my
a
last
voice.
week working at an Italian restaurant.
Wow.
It was a half pizzeria, half Italian restaurant, so my duties would switch from
That's
shift
why I
to
would
shift.
never deliver pizza.
Sometimes I'd work the front
Creepy,
register in the
weird issues
pizzeria,
could
sometimes
happen.
I'd be a busboy in the restaurant side, and sometimes I'd be doing deliveries. I liked doing deliveries the most because I'd make tip money. So it was ironic that I left this job with a horrible, scarring experience doing a delivery. It was a late night delivery. Of course, this is when the
it was
shady
late
things
night.
happen. We got an order for 3 specialty pizzas. It was a big order, probably like $70 worth of pizza. It was on the bad side of town. This was already a minor red flag. Good thing I drove a crappy old Civic and wouldn't draw any negative attention out in that area, or so I thought.
Yeah, if you're a
It was
pizza delivery guy, I'm
15-minute
sure that
drive
you shouldn't be
at
driving
least.
a really nice
I got to the
vehicle.
house and went up to
Putting all
ring the
those
bell.
miles on.
The door opens within seconds, and this Latino man opens the door halfway, sees the pizzas, opens it fully, exposing the pistol in his hand. I'm not a gun person, but if I had to guess, I'd say it was a Colt 45. But I wasn't really paying attention to
Course.
what kind of gun it was. My heart basically dropped out of my ass at the first sight of it, and realizing the situation. Then 2 more Latino men came to the door and grabbed me while the first one still had me at gunpoint. They were yelling in Spanish at each other. Then the guy with the gun says in broken English, "Give me all of your stuff." I said okay, as I could barely breathe or speak due to my panic. I grabbed my wallet, which was all I could really offer him. He then yelled, "Phone," and I gave him my phone as well. It was a Motorola Razr, the iPhone of the 2000s pretty much. One of them even forcibly grabbed my wrist and yanked off my watch. Thankfully it wasn't an expensive watch.
Wow.
After
Hope it went
this,
to the
one of them
police.
grabbed my ID out of my wallet and read out my address. Then they threatened me, basically saying if I told anybody about this, they'd come to my address and kill my whole family. I said okay, I understand, wanting to cry for help and for my life, but I couldn't. They then pushed
Yeah, I don't
me
think it
out
would
of
do
the
much
house
good.
down the stoop, causing me to land on my hands and knees and start to bleed. They slammed the door shut, and all I had left on me now were my keys. I didn't return back to the pizzeria. I was too shaken and disturbed.
What do you
Went
do?
home, noticeably quiet and shaky. My parents picked up on it. They also saw my scuffed up shorts and my bloody knees.
Hope he
They
said
knew
something.
something was wrong, and they tried prying it out of me. I had to tell them the truth. I told
Wow.
them I was robbed at gunpoint on a delivery, and they had our address and threatened to come kill us if I reported them. My dad, who had connections with the police department, right away called the number of one of his close friends, and they immediately did a background check of the person living in that house. His name was Rodrigo. He had 4 prior felony convictions. And so, my dad, with the help of his police connections, ignoring the threat from the man with the gun, had a squad of police cars surround the house and enter the house with their guns drawn. I wasn't there, of course, but we heard a description of the scene through my dad's connections. 2 of the 3 men were still in the house and were arrested and charged. The man who had 4 convictions already got a life sentence.
Yeah.
One of the guys by his side had a prior conviction and was
Wow.
sentenced to 5 years. The 3rd guy wasn't in the house.
'Cause he
and I don't
it's
think
like
they
nothing
ever
happened
found
to
him.
him.
To this
Except for
day,
loss of
he's still
wallet.
out there for all I know. and on several occasions since then, I've woken up to sounds from outside when the windows are open, like footsteps on the side walkway to the backyard, or the gate swinging open and closed.
I'm sure if the other,
Could just be my imagination.
yeah, I'm sure if the
or
other one
paranoid,
would have killed him by
but I
now.
do still worry for my and my family's well-being. Enough time has passed now that I think that man fled the country, or at the very least knows better than to ever show his face in this town again. But still, it is something that hangs in the back of my mind.
Well, that was interesting. I've never seen any of this guy's stuff. I didn't know if this was going to be videos or whatever. Apparently, this guy's just does stories. Interesting enough. I guess maybe I'll check more of these out. I didn't know it was a channel that just described stories, but yeah, this is pretty creepy. If you're a pizza delivery guy, you know, oh, come into my house and go in my dark basement, but don't turn the lights on. No, I'm all set. I wouldn't even go in the house to begin with. That was the guy's first mistake, and then you get your walls stolen. At least the guy, his father did call the cops at the end of there, and hopefully he got his wallet back. Just the creepy piano guy. Like, there's a lot of creepy stuff. I would not want to be a delivery person and then get into that kind of situations where you kind of just stick to your job. You don't go inside the house. You just drop the pizza off. If nobody answers the door, you call your place or wherever, and you say, hey, nobody's answering the door, and have them call the home. But yeah, I can't imagine being this guy, though. That would be really creepy. I'm getting stuck in these situations. Wow, that's pretty unbelievable. I don't know if these stories are true or not. I don't know where this guy gets his information from. Like I said, this is the first time I've been going on his channel. But if they're true stories that are submitted, that's pretty amazing. Because hopefully it wasn't the same pizza delivery guy for each one part of this video. Hopefully it's different people, if this is actually true stories. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm sure I'll check more of his out in the future. I always like the paranormal, creepy stuff anyway. So, yeah, as always, appreciate you guys tuning in to check out my videos. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and check out some of my other videos while you're here. Until next time.